should federal and state governments have the authority to tax, to have chilling effects on individuals for firearms, accessories, and even ammunition. It doesn't get rid of taxes as a whole. They're already taxed. Firearms are. Ammunition is already taxed. What this does is it prevents chilling effects. So an example, if somebody wanted to, in a government position, put a 1,000% tax increase on ammunition, and let's just say the ammunition is costing $50, it could raise it up to $5,000, and that is used to prevent people from purchasing items. If there's not going to be a tax that is applied applicable to all other commerce, it would be void. So if they're not taxing everything else equally outside of firearms, ammunition, or accessories, then it wouldn't be allowed.
I have seen on far too many occasions an attempt to, whether it's a subdivision of a state or the state itself, creating a chilling effect on whatever they deem as undesirable. In many cases, in some of these states, it happens to be firearms. And if it's not the firearms exactly, it's the ammunition. And in any way, shape, or form, they put barriers and hindrances in their ability to protect themselves.
When it comes to the Second Amendment, guns are meant to be regulated, to be secured safely.
When we talk about regulated militia, we're talking about how well the equipment works. It actually has nothing to do with the regulated. Regulated means making sure your equipment is in working condition and well performed. So I just want to make that clarification before you move down the line.
Yes, Chairman Nguyen, I respect that, and there are certainly people who have varying legal arguments on that clause.
Ma'am, wouldn't you acknowledge that over the course of several hundred years, it's quite possible that regulated didn't mean the same thing to the framers of the Constitution as it does to you?
Yes, I do agree with that. I also agree that the guns that were created at the time of the Constitution are not what they are now, and these guns are not what the Founding Fathers had in mind.
Isn't it true, though, that what the Founding Fathers had in mind was that each individual citizen would have the right to carry the arms of the average soldier?
Yes, they do believe that every citizen should have the right to bear arms, but they also believe that there are regulations on that. Measures such as background checks don't prevent a responsible gun owner from obtaining a gun. Taxes do not prevent a gun owner from obtaining a gun.
I would argue with you that tax implication has a huge effect on the population in terms of income.
You'd agree with me, ma'am, that the Second Amendment contains the words "shall not be infringed," correct?
Yes, sir.
If a punitive tax or a tax of any amount that is deterrent to people purchasing firearms is levied, you would agree that that would be an infringement, correct?
Not necessarily.
How would it not be if it deters people with a constitutional right to purchase firearms from doing so?
It puts in place an additional measure to make sure that the person purchasing the gun is responsible to purchase it, that they are financially responsible is one of those things.
You know, I heard about the politics of taxing individual items as to deter, like the soda tax is supposed to deter the consumption of it because it becomes cost prohibitive. Would you agree that a $500 pistol is much more readily available than, say, a $5,000 pistol?
Yes.
Okay. If it's more cost prohibitive, it would necessarily deter, right? That's the intent.
No, it would not necessarily.
It would not necessarily. Okay. Are you familiar with any tax that has been used to deter crime in the past, and the success rate of it?
Specifically, no.
Okay.
What we have heard from the only witness against this bill today is that no Second Amendment for poor people, right? We can deter the poor. It's a constitutional right only for the rich. Now, the history of using taxes to circumvent the Second Amendment is a long and sordid one. This is how the original National Firearms Act of 1933 enforced its ban on fully automatic weapons, which U.S. citizens have every right to own because they are the kit of the average soldier, which is what Justice Scalia said the Second Amendment gave us a right to do. Finally, and this is a very simple question of constitutional interpretation, I believe the framers meant what they said when they wrote the words "shall not be infringed," and the sovereign resources of the sovereign state of Arizona, not as long as I'm in this body, will ever be used to help infringe one single constitutional right of one single Arizonan. With that, I vote aye.
I echo Representative Cullinan.